Hey guys, this is Tyler from Upstream Studios. On today's episode, I'll be building a Japanese-inspired Kumiko screened lamp, and I hope you enjoy it. What you guys have been watching me do is mill up the material that will essentially become the rails and stiles of this lamp. And because I don't have access to 8/4 riffs on cherry, instead what I'm doing is orienting my cuts in a way to get riffs on cherry out of flats on stock. This is where I made my first mistake. I originally intended on having the panel that makes up the bottom third of the lamp to be set into a groove, but I glued these dominoes in way too early, and I didn't realize my mistake until later. I did find a remedy for this, but it kind of ended up being a pain in the butt, and ended up with me inadvertently taking a big chunk out of my workbench. After this dry fit, I carefully lowered the carcass of this lamp to the floor and finally got to see just how large this thing actually was. But like my ex-girlfriend says, bigger is always better. Now, because I didn't have a resaw blade on my bandsaw, I'm cutting these panels down on the table saw, and I'll resaw them on the table saw and label them so I don't lose their orientation, because these will be glued back together and book matched later to make wider panels to fill those empty spots at the bottom of the lamp. I was getting ready to make the moldings that will hold in the panel at the bottom of the lamp. However, because I'm stupid and didn't tighten the collet all the way, led to the bit dropping as I moved forward and taking out a giant chunk from my workbench. Oh well. These pieces here are what will eventually become some decorative arches that will be inset into the top portion of the lamp. As I was making them, I found myself really drawn to that shape right there, and I'm not quite sure why. And as I was kind of digging around, I found this little spot in there, though. I'm not sure what it is. I've never even heard of that before, so... After cutting the arches down, I used a dado stack to hog out some material from the back of them to make room for a basswood strip that would allow for the Kumiko panels to fit in there easily without having to do some weird bent panel to get them to fit into that curved section. I did, however, break that little nub off at the end, so I just ended up cutting the curves a little shorter, and it all worked out well in the end. Next, you'll see me make that filler strip, as well as the rest of the strips for the upcoming Kumiko panels. Originally, I had intended on completely filling each of these grids with Kumiko, but because I didn't make them with a jig and just eyeballed where the half lap joint should be, the squares didn't end up all being the exact same size. These inaccuracies ended up with me spending about 8 hours on each panel just to fit 3 complete Asano hot patterns in each. So it was an easy decision to kind of just dress up the Kumiko that I did make, just to make it stand out just a little bit. If there's enough interest, I might go ahead and make a video on the process of making these laminated Kumiko pieces. Next, I decided to work on the central pillar that would make up the lighting element of the lamp. So I started by cutting some half lap joints into some 6/4 cherry, drilled some holes, and attached it top and bottom with some pocket hole screws. After pre-finishing the panels and a quick cleanup, it was time to apply the finish. Here I'm using walrus oil furniture finish, and after letting it sit for a little while, I wiped it off and applied their furniture butter. Technically, you're supposed to let the oil sit for 24 hours before removing the excess, but I'm impatient and I do what I want regardless of what my mother says about it. Here I have some maple bat blanks, and because they're only 36 inches long, I'll connect 2 of them with some threaded inserts and cut it to its final length. And off camera I installed some threaded inserts into the other end so I could attach the pillar to the brackets I had made earlier. After fabricating the lighting fixture, I went to work on the Kumiko panels again. I started with a quick satin spray lacquer, and after letting them dry for about an hour, I went and applied the shoji paper to the screens with some glue that you can find at your local art supply store. Typically this is applied with nori, but I am too impatient to wait for Amazon to deliver. Back to the lighting fixture, I used these F-Cob LEDs that I saw in a video by Brad at Fix This Build That. I'll attach a link to his video as well as the link to the LED strips, the power source, and the dimmer switch that I used in this video. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.